Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Christian. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good night, good day. Wherever you are, whenever you're seeing this, I hope you are good. So guys, today we're gonna be talking about meditation and prayer 101 and just giving you guys an opportunity to think differently about meditation and prayer, giving you a chance to think differently about going to God. I think that there's so many things that separate us from God. There's so many things that make us feel like we're not good enough to talk to God, or like God isn't going to hear us. And that just hurts my feelings so bad. It makes me so sad, because having God there with you through life, no matter what, anytime, any place, anywhere, rooting for you, supporting you, holding your hand throughout everything, letting you know that you're okay no matter what, is priceless. It's something that will give you peace in the worst moments. It's something that will make you feel confident when you want to doubt yourself. It's something that will make you feel calm in the midst of chaos, So being able to talk to God, being able to trust that God is so important and key. And I really feel like it comes from meditation and prayer. Now, this video might be different from most meditation videos that you see, of course, because I'm me. So everything that I do, especially when it comes to spiritual work or energy work, is always God-based. Everybody that does meditation is not seeing it as prayer. I see it as prayer because I've always talked to God in my head, worked through different thoughts in my head until my head was at a point of peace. And then from that point of peace, I can focus on this, or I can focus on this. So I think I've always, because of what I was taught about prayer, I always felt like meditation and prayer were very similar. So that's what we're going to be getting into, how we can meditate and how we can pray, and just how to feel good about it, how to feel confident about it, and how to stop second guessing yourself and second guessing the connection that you have with God. Also second guessing if God is going to be able to hear you or understand you when He's the one who made you in the first place. So let's go ahead and get into it. As always, make sure you guys are checking out the description box to book private sessions with me. Follow Fruitful You Coaching if you're a business owner or an entrepreneur and you want to follow my business content services. There's so much more that I'm doing with my business coaching right now. So make sure you guys are following Fruitful You Coaching on Instagram. Of course, if you want to book sessions with me, listen to the podcast, join the book club, shop, all that good stuff, you can do so down below in the description. But let's go ahead and get into, I guess, the beginning of the video. First, I wanted to kind of start off by saying, whenever you're trying to feel differently about something, it's really important to kind of cleanse your head or cleanse your thoughts of everything that you felt about this particular thing before you stepped into this new discovery. So chances are you've seen a whole bunch of meditation videos, you've seen a whole lot of people meditate, and you're not really sure how you can make those same things work for you, or you feel like there's a disconnect there. And I guess we'll separate meditation and prayer. So let's get into meditation first. So I think most of us are introduced to meditation through our spiritual journey. We recognize meditation as a way to relax our energy, calm our energy, even bring you to a different mindset, help you visualize different things. There's also different kinds of meditation: guided meditation, visualizing meditation, movement, meditation with movement. Yoga could even be seen as meditation with movement. Meditation, for me, everybody has a different definition of meditation based on how they see it work for them and stuff like that. But for me, meditation has always been anything that calms your mind, body, and spirit. Anything that you do that calms your mind, body, and spirit and brings you to a place of peace, I feel, can be meditation. That might look like dancing, it might look like cooking, it may look like singing, it may look like prayer, it may look like taking a walk, it may look like sitting in silence with your legs crossed. It may look like all of those things, but meditation is going to be different for everybody. And this is the thing that I feel we need to remember. When we are meditating, you are confronting your thoughts. So chances are, if you've never meditated before, or if you're just getting into it, or if you're dealing with a lot of stress, a lot of confusion, a lot of conflict in your life, whenever you sit with your thoughts for the first time, it's going to be scary. It's going to be uncomfortable. You may cry. You may start thinking about a whole bunch of, negative stuff. You might have negative thoughts flood your mind, anxiety flood your mind. But that's the point of meditation, for you to really understand what you're thinking, where your thoughts are coming from, what you're experiencing. If you go a really long time without meditating, whenever you do finally meditate, you're probably going to be bombarded with a lot of negative thoughts, a lot of fears, a lot of doubts, a lot of things that maybe scared you or triggered you over the past week or month or however long it hasn't been since you meditated. It's kind of like cleaning out your fridge. Seriously, y'all know I love a good analogy. That's how y'all know I got preacher parents, seriously. But y'all know good pastors always have good analogies, but it's literally like if you're cleaning out your freezer or you're cleaning out your refrigerator and you haven't done it in months and months and months, you're not going to open it and only have a few things there and be able to get it done in a few seconds. The longer you take to clean out that fridge, the more buildup you're going to have, the more you're going to get discouraged halfway through, the more you're going to get messy and it's going to get all over you, the more you're going to have to clean everywhere around that fridge by the time you're done, because you use counter space and stuff is fell on the floor and all of that. The more you maintain your spiritual health, the easier meditation will become. But in the beginning, it's always going to be difficult because most of us distract ourselves all day from the thoughts in our head. Most of us distract ourselves by social media, by texting, by scrolling all day. Even we distract ourselves with our work, with our children, with our partner. We distract ourselves with all different things. And unfortunately, sometimes when we spend our lives trying to distract ourselves, even if we do it subconsciously, and this is something that we do subconsciously, by the way, because we're programmed to run away from pain. We're programmed to run away from things that make us uncomfortable or things that make us feel some type of way. We're not programmed to sit in discomfort and just stay there forever. So of course, if you're experiencing any type of physical, emotional, spiritual, mental discomfort, you're going to try to get out of there. You're going to try to figure out what you can do to never feel like that again. So I think that when we always are on a habit of distracting ourselves from what we're experiencing, when you finally sit with that in meditation, it's gonna be hard, it's gonna be confusing, you're not gonna be able to focus, your body is not gonna be settled, you're gonna feel very, very restless, and it's gonna be like that for a while. And meditation is a practice. It's not something that you can just sit down and do immediately. It's definitely something that kind of takes time for you to learn how to be kind to yourself, recognize what your body needs, recognize what your mind needs, and that takes time. So I want you guys to start thinking differently about meditation. I don't want you to feel like meditation has to look a certain way or feel a certain way or be a certain way. Meditation is about calming your mind, body, and spirit. And whatever that means for you is what that means for you. Whatever that means for you is what that means for you. What I always recommend to beginners, excuse me for the cat hair that's flying all over the camera. What I always recommend for beginners in terms of meditation, when you're just getting into it, doing guided meditations and also doing yoga. Yoga helps you be present in the moment. It helps you focus on your breath work. It helps you clear your mind. So that's a good thing to do if you're just looking to get into meditation and it's been difficult for you to clear your mind. Also, like I mentioned, guided meditations. I love guided meditations. Guided meditations are so great. You literally have someone walking you through your meditation. And I used to do guided meditations all the time. I was definitely one of the people on the Calm app in 2020. If you know, you know. There's so many different apps that you guys can get that will have all different kinds of guided meditations, no matter who you want speaking or what you want the vibe to be. So put on a guided meditation, lay back and close your eyes. You can do this in a tub, you can do this in the bed, you can do this in the car before you go to work. Don't feel like you have to be in a perfect environment. Don't feel like you have to be on a yoga mat in the woods with sound bowls playing to meditate. You can meditate whenever you want, whenever works for you, because it's about you getting what you need to cleanse your mind, body, and spirit. You also can use sound bowls like I have in the back of my YouTube videos. You guys can look on YouTube and type in sound bowl healing or whatever, and play these sound bowls, you know, as you sit in silence or as you do your yoga. Even as you do your journaling, all that can be seen as something that ends up helping you meditate. Now, of course, the goal is to be able to calm your mind, body, and spirit enough that you're actually fine enough to sit still for an hour a day or 30 minutes a day or however long. I think that's a good goal to have eventually, because stillness really, really, really is a gift. And we are so uncomfortable with stillness. I think when we conquer that fear and that discomfort that we have with stillness, you know, because the whole point of meditation is for nothing to be happening. It's not for something to happen. It's for nothing to be happening. It's for you to be able to get to the point where there's nothing in your head, there's nothing disturbing your body, there's nothing disturbing your spirit, you're present in the moment, and you're fine. That's the whole point of meditation. You're present in the moment, and there isn't anything disrupting your energy or your spirit or your body or anything. So yeah, I think that it takes a little bit of time to get to a space where we feel comfortable enough to do that. It's going to be, you know, hard at first. It's going to be strenuous at first. Your mind is going to be a scary place at first. But just keep at it and keep at it. Do the guided meditation, do yoga, walk yourself through it, talk yourself through it, and ask yourself, what makes me calm? What makes me feel calm? What helps me get thoughts out of my head? I also think that journaling is going to be good as well, because journaling also helps you kind of mind dump. It helps you get everything out of your head that you want to. And one more thing about meditation. Whenever you have certain thoughts that pop up in your head while you're meditating, don't try and remove those thoughts. Just let those thoughts come. A lot of times in meditation, and I've mentioned this a lot of times before, we meditate and we want to get all the thoughts out of our head. But sometimes you're not ready to empty your mind yet. Sometimes you still have to focus on some things or hone in on some things, or just ask yourself, what does this mean? Or why am I feeling this way? Or why do I keep having these scary thoughts? Sometimes it's important to lean into those things, and meditation can be a safe space to do that. If you're not able to break down at work, or break down when you're taking care of your kids, or break down, whenever, this allows you to really feel what you're experiencing and face it and confront it. So you always want to do that in an environment when you're comfortable, but you want to do it. You want to give yourself the opportunity to do it, because it is a gift and it can change your life and change how you think and process and focus on things. So yeah, that's what I have for meditation. So let yourself go with your thoughts, give yourself the gift of understanding your mind, and, be patient with yourself. And remember the overall goal and focus of meditation. So yeah, let's go ahead and get into prayer. So I think that prayer can be a little bit trickier because, like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, we want to make sure that God can hear us. And I think that it depends on how we've been taught about prayer in the church. I was always taught that prayer was a conversation between myself and God. All of the youth in the church that I grew up in and still go to whenever I'm home, all of the youth in the church, we would conduct we would conduct the first service of the month. Every first Sunday was children's, service, was youth ministry service. So we would do the prayer, we would do the scripture, we would do the offering. The children in the church, the youth in the church would just conduct Sunday service. And then my mom, who was the youth minister at the time, she would basically do the sermon for the service. So we all had our opportunity to pray for the church, to sing at church, to read your scripture, to do this, to share whatever. We all were able to do that. It was something that taught me that God is for everybody, church is for everybody, spiritual gifts is for everyone, prayer is for everyone. Just because you're a child, or just because you don't know, or just because something is foreign to you or confusing to you, it doesn't mean that it's not good enough. It doesn't mean that you should shy away from that. And because of my upbringing in the church, this allowed me to just naturally be very comfortable talking with God. And I would always talk to God like I was talking to a friend. I would just lay in my bed and look up and just talk to God about everything. And I would feel better about it. I would feel like I was venting to a friend. I would feel like these things made sense to me afterwards. I would feel just better about it, So I think that as I've grown older, I've understand more about how prayer works outside of just calming you, because prayer really can move mountains, create miracles, do all kind of amazing, incredible, powerful things. And I think that when we are taught that prayer is something that maybe has to be perfect, or God is only going to listen if you pray like this, or, your prayer has to be powerful, it has to do this, it has to heal the sick and release this and exorcise the demons, it can be stressful for you as someone growing in Christ, growing in God. It can be stressful for you to be like, my prayer has to do all that? I have to say all of that? What if I don't know what to say? What if God can't hear me? Is God listening? I think that the biggest thing that we miss in spirituality is that this is not about instant gratification. Some of us forget that. The world is very much so about instant gratification. We have the microwave, we have the cell phone, we have every kind of wave of phone you could think. We have the instant gratification going, but spirituality is something where there is no instant gratification. And if you do ever get instant gratification, then it's brief moments of that, and you're literally on your knees crying like, God, please send me a sign. And then you'll see a sign in the next 10 minutes. But usually we are working and praying and being faithful and hoping for the best and knowing that God is sorting it out for us. We have to know that God knows us. And that's something else that, I was taught very, very young, that God made me. So God knows what I'm afraid of. God knows what I struggle with. God knows what makes me doubt myself. God knows what I'm insecure about. God knows the thoughts that are in my head. God knows everything about me. So there's nothing that I can't say to God that God doesn't already know. There's nothing that I can't confess to God that he wasn't right there sitting with me while I was doing it or thinking it or feeling it. So when we feel like we have to kind of come before God in this grand way, when we feel like God is expecting these great things from us, God is much kinder than we think. God is much more forgiving than we think. And our relationship with God should be a relationship built on love, built on honesty, built on freedom of expression. Because how can you ever be freed from something if you can't even speak it out loud? And like I mentioned, God already knows about it, so we don't want to let our insecurity stop us from connecting with God. We don't want to feel like we're not good enough. We don't want to feel like we're not right. I recently saw a clip from a podcast a couple weeks ago where this person was saying that they wanted to go back to church, but they were waiting until they were good enough. Now, I'm not telling y'all go to church. Y'all do what y'all want. But I think that sometimes we feel that way about prayer and about meditation. We feel like, oh, it's too scary for me, or I'm too uncomfortable, or my intrusive thoughts come in immediately. I'm not able to clear my mind. I'm not able to do this. So when I feel better, I'll do it. These things aren't the type of things that you could do when you feel better. That's like saying, I have cancer, but I'm going to do chemotherapy when I feel a little bit better, because I know chemo is going to be hard. I know chemo is going to be this, but when I feel a little bit better, I have the energy to do it. A little bit later, you won't have the minds to do it. A little bit later, you'll be so gone in your illness and your depression and your anxiety and your sickness, you'll feel sicker than ever. You'll feel worse than ever. And you'll wish that you did it 6 months ago, a month ago, whenever ago, You don't want to wait for anything to connect with God, to talk to God, to build that relationship and open that door, because God can only speak to you when you are tuned into those certain things. There's been so many opportunities where God has tried to tell us certain things and we're like, oh, that ain't what that is. Like, we immediately shut it down because God tells us things that we can't even believe. God says it's going to be okay. God says, trust the process. God says, why are you crying? It's going to be fine. God says you needed to let them go. God says you needed to, get fired from that job. In all of these terrible moments, there's always this little sliver of, I know it's going to be okay. I know it's going to be okay. I know it's going to work out. It has to work out. And that little sliver of hope is what God puts in us. It's the seed that God puts in us. Now, we spend all of our time focusing on our thoughts. So, of course, we're going to focus on the frustration and the obstacle and the issue. We're not going to focus that God is telling us that it's going to be okay no matter what. So if this problem doesn't mean that everything is going to end, if this problem also means that it's going to be okay, then maybe there's going to be something that comes out of this. Maybe there's going to be some gratitude that I'm going to have that I was able to make it through this situation. And again, I think that when we are able to pray comfortably, when we're able to connect with God comfortably, we're able to be in a space where we feel just more tuned into that energy. Whenever you are called to pray, sometimes God will come to you and say, pray for this, or pray for your mom, pray for your dad, pray for this person, pray for this person. Sometimes you'll be praying and God will tell you to add somebody else to your prayer list or pray for something else. Sometimes you'll just be walking around and you'll just get the feeling to just pray right now. But if you aren't praying, if you feel scared about talking to God, you're going to ignore that and try to put that off. And that's not a good thing. When you feel the urge to talk to God, you want to do it right there in that moment because there's something that God has for you. And you don't want to miss out on that, So don't let your insecurity, don't let overthinking, don't let those human things stop you from connecting to God. Don't let those human things stop you from connecting to God. And don't expect the connection that you have with God to be like the connection you have with anybody else. It doesn't really matter how you connect with anybody else. It doesn't matter if you don't have any friends. It doesn't matter if your parents hate you. It doesn't matter if everybody's abused you. It doesn't matter if you don't have one person to call. It doesn't matter if you don't have nothing or nobody. You have God. And God is a friend and a support system and a leader and a father that is better than anything that you could have on this earth, all put together times 3. Check that. The comfort that God gives you, it's not something that you can get from anybody else telling you that it's going to be okay. The peace that God will bring you is not something that anyone else can give you. The direction that God gives you will be nothing like anyone else will tell you. God will tell you, quit your job and move across the country. I'll provide. Ain't nobody else going to tell you that. No one else is going to tell you to go after your dreams when it's scary. No one else is going to tell you to don't give up when everything looks bleak. No one else is going to tell you this is your purpose. Don't listen to what they say. This is what I created you for. So do this, believe in this, trust in this. Nobody else can tell you that. So if you aren't connecting with God in prayer, meditation can be a gateway to prayer, but if you aren't connecting with God, talking to God in prayer specifically, it's like trying to work at NASA and you've never worked at NASA before and you don't even know who the boss is. You just in there winging it, honey. About to make a spaceship come back down to Earth right now. You don't even know what you're doing. How can you maneuver throughout life without knowing the creator of everything, without being able to connect with that energy? Because I've had to ask God, why they did me like that? Why did I trust them? Why do I feel bad that I have to cut this person off even though they were down bad to me? You know, sometimes you really have to ask God, why me? Why this? Why is this happening? What am I supposed to learn from this? My mom dealt with this. My dad dealt with this. My siblings are dealing with this. How am I going to be any different? What am I supposed to be doing to be different? Nobody wants to talk to me anymore. Nobody likes me anymore. What am I supposed to do? You know, and nobody else can give you that kind of advice. Nobody else can lead you to what you're supposed to do except for God. And also the great thing about working with God is that God will connect to you in a way you need to be connected with. If you need, you know, confirmation from other people, from YouTube videos, from music, from your best friend, from a dream, from whatever, God will communicate to you in a way that you need to be communicated to and with. And something else I want to say, whatever God tells you to do, do it. Whatever God tells you to look into or get into it. There's a lot of people that say, oh, you shouldn't do this, or you shouldn't do this, or you shouldn't do that. I think that specifically when it comes to spiritual things, right? Because a lot of people say that sound bowls are demonic, right? And that sound bowls are evil. What if someone was so afraid of prayer that sound bowls were the only thing that could comfort them? Do you really think that God doesn't want them allowing sound bowls to be a gateway to any type of healing and comfort for them so they can find their way to God? Don't you think that God created all things on this earth to lead us to him? God made everything on this earth. Nothing on this earth is created by Satan. Nothing on this earth is created by darkness. God made everything. So everything, no matter what it is, can be a catalyst to lead us back to God and back to our purpose. For some people, it might be drugs. For some people, it might be losing their job, like I said. For some people, it might be sleeping under a bridge. For some people, it might be losing their entire family. For some people, it might be a crystal. It might be a sound bowl. It might be a new opportunity. It might be their car breaking down on the side of the road and getting help from somebody. We don't know what is going to bring us to God. We don't know. All we know is what feels right to us in the moment. That's it. And if you have the intention of being who God has for you, if you're really surrendering to God and you want God to connect with you and come into your life, you can trust that you're always going to be led to the right thing, you know? And if you're not sure, you can always ask. And that's a good thing about it. That's why I'm able to do what I do so confidently. People always say, how are you able to, you know, not feel judgment when you do this or not feel bad when you do this? How can anybody judge anything that I do when I've talked to God about it already? Hello? How can anybody make me feel any type of negative way about anything that I'm doing? How can anybody make me feel any type of negative way about anything that I'm doing when God is the one that told me to do it? And I've already asked God, are you sure? And God said, I'm sure. So I say, okay, and I get to it. How can I let anybody, it doesn't even matter what anybody says to me, because I talked to God first about this. And talking to God first is how I do everything in my life. Anything that people ask me, I always say, I talk to God first. I talk to God before I post this. I talk to God before I do this. I talk to God before I do this. I talk to God before I start the Instagram page or before I launch the product or before I do anything. I talk to God first. Because people can't really help me except for confirm what I've already wanted to do for myself. You know, if people are giving you advice that you don't want to listen to, you're not going to do that. Name a person who didn't want to do something, and because somebody else told them, they did it anyway. You secretly wanted to do it, or you wanted to be accepted, or you wanted something from it. If you don't want to do something and it's not going to be good for you and you don't want to do bad things, you're not going to do that. If there's nothing in it for you, you're not going to do it. You're not going to do it. So a lot of times we have to be pushed to do things, to step into things, to read things that we wouldn't normally step into. And it's because God has to lead us there, because we are not going to take the path of more pain, more confusion. We don't want to cut off our friends. We don't want to have the hard conversation with our partner. We don't want to air out our dirty laundry and maybe admit something to someone that we've been holding in for so long. We don't want to even admit certain things to God, you know, but certain things we have to do in order to elevate and grow and just be who God wants us to be. And I always advocate for you guys to pray to God on your own and talk to God on your own and have that connection, because God only knows what God made you for. You know, I can't really tell you what your purpose is or what God put you here for. You know, I can give you some clues to help you get started, but there might be a switch up. There might be something that changes. You know, there might be anything that could happen where God might send you on another path, you know? So being able to talk to your manager, your boss, is super, super important. Like, it's literally like being at a job where you can't do any assignment until you call the boss first. Like, you don't even have a list of to-dos. It's like, show up and call the boss. And when you finish that thing, call the boss. And when you finish that thing, call the boss. That's literally what life is like. And if you're not connecting with the boss and you're just winging it, it's like a 0% chance that the boss is going to be like, wow, you did everything I wanted you to do, exactly how I wanted you to do it. That's not how it is. Most of the time, God is like, child, you could have been out of this 6 months ago. You chose to stay in that because you thought you deserved that. But if you would have talked to me, I would have told you, you know you don't. And this is why you know you don't. And this is why you stepped into that. You know, I haven't been to a lot of therapy. I haven't seen a lot of psychiatrists. I was a psychology major when I was in school, and I've been to therapy a couple of times. I can count on one hand how many times I've been to therapy. I know the stuff that I talk to you guys about because I talk to God about it. I talk to the person that made everything, that knows everything. And I love therapists. I love medical professionals. Kudos to them and shout out to them. But you have to be able to confirm for yourself what God wants you to do. And sometimes God will tell you, seek help, and you need to be able to listen to that. And if you're like, where do I start? God will send you to the right direction, you know, versus you feeling like you have to figure everything out on your own. We never have to figure everything out on our own. You do not have to. If you want God to do everything for you, then God will do everything for you. All you just have to say is, God, I want to live the life you want me to live. I want to do what you want me to do. You tell me to do something, I'm going to do it. I'm listening for instructions and mean it. And you'll see that things will change. Also, a rule of thumb that people always say in prayer is when you're praying, you want to ask God whatever you want, but you always want to start off with gratitude. So being grateful for what you have, always asking for protection in your prayers is something good as well. And, you know, having a conversation with God. Like, don't feel like it just has to be, can you give me this? 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 I want this. Have a conversation like you would with a therapist. This is what I'm feeling. This is what I'm experiencing. This is what's been going on. And I can't tell you how many times I prayed confused. And as I'm asking God these questions, the answers come to me. And I'm like, well, maybe I guess it could be because of this. And maybe, you know, when everything falls together. So sometimes God is just waiting for you to ask. And once you do that, everything comes together. And remember to not let your insecurity or your doubt or you second guessing yourself or you questioning your own ability stop you from connecting with God. Because God doesn't say, be a great prayer warrior that can move mountains before you come to me. God just says, come. And also, that's what God means when he says, come as you are. Hoochie mamas and heathens that's going to church like you going to the club. You're not supposed to be wearing that to church. People always be like, oh, God says, come as you are. That's how I know you're not in your word. Because if you was in your word, you would know that God means your heart. Come to God with your sin, with your embarrassment, with your shame, with your guilt, and he will make you brand new. That's what God means. God does not mean come to church like a hoochie mama to make a point on Instagram. Where they say do that? Y'all sure got some funny things that y'all do with the Bible. Now, I know it ain't y'all here, but don't they got some funny things they do with the Bible? Help Christians, Lord. Deliver them all over the world. But yes, the Christians need help. And I'm a Christian myself, Lord. But the Christians need help, okay? Really come as you are. It's your heart, baby. It's your heart. It's your spirit. It's your mind. You know, that's what God is saying. And God wants you to not feel like you have to feel super, super strong to come. God wants you to come to him when you're weak, when you are down on your last. He wants you to turn to him before you turn to something else. You know, so don't feel like you have to be good enough or you have to be strong enough or feel healed enough to do any of these things. God is there for you when you are feeling the opposite of all of those things. So be comfortable and be confident in how you approach God. And even if you can't be confident, be comfortable. Because remember, God knows you, God created you, and there isn't anything that you can say that will surprise God or deter God away from you. Okay, guys, that's my spiel about meditation and prayer. I hope you guys enjoyed these messages. I would say it would be a good rule of thumb to add in prayer every day and meditation 2 or 3 times a week. So pray every day, get in the habit of talking to God every day before you go to bed, as soon as you wake up in the morning. Talk to God every day about anything, about your day, about whatever, about your worries. Talk to God every day and make it a point to meditate 2 or 3 times a week. Like I mentioned, you can use guided meditation if you want to. Get you a guided meditation app. Make it easy. Do some yoga. Get into it. But I love you guys and I appreciate y'all and I thank y'all for being here. Make sure you check out the links in the description box if you want to book with me, shop with me, connect with me, all of that and then some. I'm also still doing full moon and Scorpio readings. So if you guys are interested in that, I'll leave some information about how you can get one of those in the top of the description box as well. But yes, I appreciate you guys. I love y'all. Again, I hope you enjoyed this video and these messages, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye guys. Bless.